This is my shop. It's pretty awesome. 42 by 80, 16 foot to the eaves. It's stick built on a slab. It's got 2x6 sidewalls. Pretty well insulated. Radiant tube heat. It's got this nice 14 by 22 overhead door. I love it. You could do anything here. But there's a little problem. Everybody always says it looks bigger in person than it does on camera. Looks like a mess either way. I have done some work to it. I had to replace the roof about a year ago. And then I redid all the lights probably about 2 years ago. I painted a little bit, done some work to the radiant tube heaters. The problem is, I've been here almost 4 years and it still feels like I haven't really moved in. I've got a bunch of machines here, welding machines and machine tools along the wall. I've never really gotten them wired up. I just kind of run them with extension cords and patch cords. They've never really been leveled or put in their proper place. I got this 2-post lift that works great, but it's all the way at the back of the shop, the opposite end of the door, which is kind of weird and not very handy. Mostly I work up here, by the door near the floor drain, or in the back by the 2-post lift. And this middle area here has always just been kind of a catch-all. And that's because of the floor. It's pretty easy to see with this string. So I've got it stretched from one side of the shop to the other. It's essentially level with the floor on either end. Yeah. So it's actually worse than that. If you pull the string tight, it's about 4 inches low, right in the middle of that forklift. And it actually, so the concrete goes down 4 inches from here to there. It's about maybe 10 feet. So it goes down 100 millimeters in 3 meters. That's pretty bad. So I had a couple of lifts that I bought to put up in this area. And when I went to install them, that's when I first kind of discovered this problem. I never noticed it when I looked at the building before we bought it. It never came up in an inspection. It wasn't mentioned by the previous owner, but it is not good. And that's not the only part that's kind of messed up. This is the wall where I have my welding machines and machine tools. And you can see that the river rock is slowly going downhill. Now it looks bad because I kind of dug this out so I could see what was going on. But there's a void under the concrete, and it goes back probably about 6 feet, at least as far as I can tell. And it runs all the way from here over to kind of to that window. It's probably about 30 feet long. So that's not good. The engine lathe is sitting right there, sitting on top of concrete that's essentially floating in air. It's about half the square footage of my shop that's affected, which means I basically have never been able to use half of my shop. So we need to try to fix it. We need to bring the level back up, but there's no easy way to do that. I talked to Dirt Perfect and some other guys who know more about concrete than I do. They suggested that I just keep an eye on it for at least a year, make sure that it's not still settling or that it's not moving up and down. It hasn't changed from what I can tell in the last 3 years, so I think we're pretty stable, which means we just need a game plan to fix it. There's really only 2 options. We can cut out the concrete that's here, fix the base, and then pour new concrete. I figure even if I do a lot of the work myself, that would cost at least $20,000, maybe more. And then I don't know how long it would take if I can even get someone to do it. There's a labor shortage and we're coming up to the kind of the busy season. The other option is called mud jacking or slab jacking. They drill a series of holes through the concrete and they pump mortar underneath, and they lift it up hydraulically using mortar. It's about 1/4 of the cost, and I'm gonna try it. So I got a company coming out tomorrow, and they're gonna give it a shot. Worst case scenario, I can always cut it out and replace it, but if the slab jacking works, it's gonna save me a lot of time and hopefully a lot of money. And other than having, some holes in the concrete, it should be fine. He said the only problem they could run into is if there's a lot of rebar in the concrete. When they lift it back up, because the rebar is basically bent, it doesn't like to bend back straight, and you can end up with some humps in the floor. But that would be better than having a 4-inch hole in the middle of it, or having my machine sit on top of the air. So we're gonna give it a shot. I got to move all this stuff out of here so that they have a place to work. Yeah, it's finally time. I'm tired. It's been a long day. And I didn't even really do anything. There's a lot of cleanup work to do. There's splattered concrete everywhere. 600 PSI can really make a mess, but the hard part's done, and that's fantastic.
Looks nice.
It's been 48 hours. The mortar should be set. We should be good to go. It's not perfect, but it's a whole lot better than it was. Believe it or not, they pumped right around 8 tons of mortar under this floor, which is mind-boggling. There was a big void kind of in this area. I thought there probably was. It sounded pretty hollow under there. So they had to fill the void, and then once it was full, they could start kind of pumping it up. And the floor is still about 1 inch out of flat, depending on how you measure it. But we hit a point of diminishing returns, and I decided to just stop there. So basically what happens is once we get to a certain point, the more we raise the middle of the floor, the more it wants to raise the good parts of the floor. For a couple of reasons, but the big one is that the rebar that's in the concrete, when it cracked and settled, the rebar bent down. And then when you raise the concrete back up, the rebar kind of acts like a lever, and it raises the good parts of the floor. So the only way to really make it any better than that would be to cut the concrete all the way through the bar. And I didn't want to do that. So basically, this is as good as it's going to get. It's got a lot of cracks. I mean, it's, like I said, it's not perfect, but it is a whole lot better than what we started with. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna start putting things back where they sort of belong. See if we can get back to life as we used to know it. I've done some pruning. Might have gotten a little carried away, but you can see what I'm dealing with. So it's high here, just about right there, and then from here to the window it's low. Very low, like a foot low. So we need to put in some fill, bring this up at least to the bottom of the concrete. Now the problem is all this landscaping. I am not a fan of river rock or landscaping in general. I'm more of a scorched earth man, but unfortunately it's not entirely up to me. Yeah, I can't think of any way to deal with this river rock other than just shoveling it out by hand. This stuff sucks. If we try to use a machine, we're just going to get, you know, plastic and dirt mixed with it, and then that's no good. The weeds start growing in it and you got yourself a big old mess. If you guys don't hear from me, you can assume that something bad happened to that hosta. Avenge my death. Well, that really wasn't too bad. Took about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, 2 scoops on the Oliver, just like this. So now we kind of need to peel away the topsoil and the sod here. I wish I had a backhoe. That's a backhoe. But I don't think it's gonna work. That's a backhoe. It's got a major drivetrain problem, so we can't drive it. But it still kind of works as a backhoe. I wonder how many birds' nests are inside. Quite a few, I would guess. I wonder if it'll start. Nope. Let's see, this thing usually runs pretty good. What a sweetheart. You want the camera? Be from your perspective? Slow and steady.
What do I even do?
Steer. You don't have anything else you can do. That's the brakes, I don't know if they work.
No idea what that means.
It's a process, I know. If you're an experienced equipment operator, you might want to just skip this part of the video. I'm okay at fixing them, but I don't really know how to run them. I think this is only the second time I've actually operated a backhoe. And the controls on this old machine are backwards of the only other one I've ever run. So I'm just taking my sweet time. And my only real goal is to avoid punching a new window in the wall of my shop. You know, every machine's got its little quirks and eccentricities. It takes a while to get used to it, figure things out. I used to run into this a lot when I worked on CNC machines. You know, I'd fly in, I was supposed to be the hero there to save the day, and a lot of times I didn't even know how to turn the machine on. I think it's pretty good. I mean, considering the skill level of the operator. Well, a little deeper than I needed to, but I don't see what that's gonna hurt. I'm gonna run to town, I think, and grab a couple of bags of ready mixed concrete. We'll mix it up real runny. I'm just gonna pour it in a couple of the small voids that are still under the concrete. There's some kind of a critter that's dug a hole there. We'll fill that in. A couple of small areas here. And we should be ready to backfill. I'm gonna put the backhoe away before it blows a hose. We're surely on borrowed time. Pretty soupy. That should work. Now we've got to fill the hole up with this stuff. This is lime. That's what we call it. It's when they crush limestone into gravel. These are the fines that are left over. It compacts pretty well, makes pretty good fill, and it's super cheap. There's 14 tons here. It cost just over $60. So what's that, like $4 a ton or something like that, plus delivery? Probably too much, but better too much than not enough. Interesting setup. Potato harvesters, I believe. That is it. Ain't getting no better. River rock's back in. Edging is straight-ish. It's not Neil Cove straight, but it's good enough for who it's for. These big clumps of sod are kind of a pain. Hopefully they kind of break up on their own, or I might have to drive over them, kind of pack them down. We'll scatter some grass seed and we'll call it good enough. This old backhoe is pretty sweet. Be a lot more handy if it would move under its own power.
I'm here to dig.
You're here to dig? Show us. I may have slightly overestimated the amount of fill we needed. Probably could have got by with about half a truckload. That's okay. Cheap entertainment. Right, kiddo?
I found a giant.
Shop's looking good, but we had a slight entropy increase in this general area. Turns out the cabinet wasn't locked. Rookie mistake.
Oh. Man, I'm tired. That's a little more shoveling than I'm used to. Hey, thanks for watching. Curious to see what the YouTube algorithm does with this one. There can't be a whole lot of channels that go immediately from rebuilding a variable speed milling machine head to excavating subsided soil. But I thought it was interesting, and I'm so glad that it's done. Plus, I spent the whole week on this project, so I didn't have time to really video anything else. Well, this project, and I had to help my wife. She insists on indoctrinating our son into her cult, so I had to help her make him a new costume before the annual blood sacrifice. It's a process that I refer to as the death march of fun. Yeah, I've never really done much sewing, but it turns out that operating a complex machine and interpreting cryptic pictorial instructions is kind of my wheelhouse. Who'd have thought? Thanks again for watching.
This might be the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Thing is nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, 1926 Oakland Landau. Pretty sure it's the original paint.
Got wood spoked wheels.
Original wheels, original floor.
I bet it's original seat too.
I noticed that on the floor plate over there it says something Body Company, Detroit. So it must be custom coach work.
Case.
Man, this is cool. I think it's the original top. Spoked rims. Spare tire.
14,000 miles.
Man, that's cool.
Oh look! Look! Did you see how you got changed wheels? Take it off here.
Oh yeah, like
Spoke stays.
Dayton wheels. Man, this is cool. Flathead 6-cylinder engine. Stromberg updraft carburetor. I wonder if it was electric start originally.
I don't think so. It looks to me like that was put on.
Wow, look at the headlights are so cool.
I think they're huge. That thing is just cool.
So apparently Oakland and Pontiac were together, and then eventually it split off and just became Pontiac. Wow, look at that. Look at this cool mechanism on the steering box. I wonder if it's some kind of automatic turn signal. That is so cool.
Previous owners stored me away
It says
since
Fisher
the early
body right there.
60s.